Welcome to Stop Guessing, Start Testing, a podcast to help your online business become more profitable through better decisions. Learn how to collect clues from tiny tests so you can grow without relying on luck. I'm your host, Sue McLachlan. Let's go. Have you ever seen that magnificent Netflix show, Nailed It? The one where amateur bakers try to recreate magnificent masterpiece cakes, much to the sometimes horror and delight of the hosts, Nicole and Jacques. Well, they have the recipe and they have the ingredients and they can see exactly what it's supposed to look like, but the result is usually a bit of a disaster. Think a hot mess of cakes sliding everywhere and something that doesn't look a whole lot like the picture. Because having someone else's recipe doesn't mean you have their skills, experience, or resources. And yet in online business, we are inundated every day on social media and emails and every other place you could be selling us shortcuts. Use the exact emails that I used to create 6 figures in my launch. Follow this webinar template. Use my ChatGPT bot to write your sales page in 5 minutes, and so much more. We want the shortcut. But when we use those things and then it turns into a hot mess, or we don't make 6 figures following the email blueprint, sometimes we can end up blaming ourselves or thinking that we are the problem. But when you change your thinking to see someone else's method, not as some exact blueprint or recipe or template to follow, but as a starting point that you can then run your own tests on, it changes how much pressure that you put on yourself, and it gives you a path so that you can find your own best way to run things. And we should not overlook that when we buy a blueprint, we're usually being shown the highlight reel. And look at how easy your life will be if you follow this method for millions, or if you use someone else's templates or swipe files. What you won't always see, or rarely see, is the details of why that person had success with that sales page or emails or a webinar. Because there's usually a whole lot more to it than that one blueprint that they are selling you. Did the success come from their ads budget? Did it come from their team or resources? Maybe that person has someone or multiple people full time on social media, or they're paying someone to write all the emails. So you are getting someone else's scripts, which are based on someone else's audience. Maybe it's how long they spent warming up their audience, or even how big that their audience is. You're not probably going to see the last minute mid-launch pivot when things didn't go to plan and things got scrapped and new things got created. And that sales page, they probably spent 5 figures getting a copywriter to create it, which most likely involved that copywriter spending weeks on client interviews to understand the audience. And you are definitely not seeing how much money and time that success cost them. And if you just try and copy it, it's going to end up a bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I mean, sure, you might make some sales. Absolutely. If you follow it, I have followed blueprints and made sales from doing it. But if you don't evaluate which specific part of that led to those sales, you won't know why. And you won't know if it wasn't even the plan that's what helped you made the sales, that you could have made them by not following a plan and just telling your biggest fans and your current audience about what you are offering. The old spaghetti metaphor, some of it might stick, but the thing is that you don't know why it stuck. And you don't know why one bit stuck and there are 5 other bits on the floor. Let's just say posting on Instagram. Maybe you put up a post that gets heaps more traction than normal, but do you know why? What was it that made that post stand out and perform better than any of the others? Was it the type of picture that you used? Was it the messaging in that, the way you structured the caption? Was it the time of day? Maybe did someone else share it? Or was it just pure algorithmic luck? I mean, yeah, you can guess, but you're not going to know without evaluating and without looking at data. And it's also important to differentiate between tactics and understanding strategy when you are looking at a blueprint and plan, especially if you are wanting to adapt it to your own business. If you're instructed to send this exact email, say at 9 a.m., and then send this exact email at 6 p.m., that is a tactic. But creating urgency to help people make a decision is a strategy. If you copy the tactic, say the email, but your audience hates aggressive marketing and getting multiple emails, then it could result in your audience getting annoyed. And do remember, a little side note, that is if you know that your audience hates aggressive marketing, that you're not assuming that. And I'm going to talk about assumptions that you might make in a whole other episode because that is a minefield. If you understand the strategy or, thinking out in this situation, you're understanding that the strategy is about creating some sort of urgency, then you can adapt it and try things and change for your own audience. Maybe for you, it looks more like a gentle reminder of a bonus disappearing than big flashing countdown timers or sending multiple emails in a day. And you can test that with your audience to see what gets the best response. The actions of other people are a fantastic starting place to get ideas for your own business and your own way of operating. But understanding the logic behind their decisions, why people do certain things and why the things that they do work when others don't, is going to be a much better way to learn how to make your own decisions. And it is one of the reasons why I really want to make sure to share the entire process as I'm doing all of my experiments inside the 2026 experiment. I want to be able to share what is happening in the moment and also give you the opportunity to ask me about it, because when you can see that thinking, the reasoning behind why, you're not just seeing the results at the end, you're seeing all that went into that. Now, if you do want to follow a blueprint, even if you want to follow your own blueprint, if you want to find your own way and then blueprint it again, do remember, don't try to change too much at once. Say, for example, you're wanting to try a new launch, a new offer, a launch strategy you've never used before. Maybe it's a slightly different target audience, different pricing to anything that you've done before. That is a lot of new things to try all at once. There are so many different variables and essentially a heap of different tests happening at once. And if evaluating data and looking at what you're doing isn't something that you're already in practice of in your business and it doesn't come naturally, well, you are not going to know which of those things worked, and you're not going to know what you can change in order to improve if you don't get the results you want. And sometimes when you are doing a new offer, a new launch strategy, a slightly different or totally different audience, different pricing, and making so many things different, then maybe it is not going to be the most successful thing that you do on the first go. So the more information that you can get, then the better it is. You are never going to know if it didn't work, if that is because customers weren't interested in the product, they didn't even understand maybe what it was, whether it was the price being wrong for them, or they were just busy and never paid enough attention to what you were doing to find out more. So that is where you can use things like asking your audience to gather information, but also just trying not to do too many different things at once if you can avoid it. I mean, the concept of A/B testing has been around for a really long time. And basically what that is changing one thing at a time so you know what works. Is it A or is it B? Because otherwise, how do you know which change makes a difference? And absolutely do make sure that if you're going to make changes, that it is statistically relevant. You want to look for patterns. For example, if you have two people commenting negatively on the price of something, but say only 10 people have seen that, and they are not friends and family or people who aren't even your target audience, well, 2 people out of 10 is 20%, and that is something that you might want to pay attention to. But if you get 2 people commenting negatively on price and 10,000 people have seen it, that is completely insignificant. So it's really important when you are doing any kind of tests to be looking at the numbers to see whether it is something that is relevant enough when you are gathering data. A/B testing is something that I think is really, really useful. You can get super granular. You can change just the headline on a sales page or just change the subject line in an email. But if this is something that's a bit newer to you, then maybe just try and make one bigger change. You could try and launch a new program that you've never launched before with a method that you already know that you've done before so that you can see how that performs compared to when you've launched that previously. Say, for example, you've launched before with a webinar, so you've got a bit of statistics and information about how that worked, and then you can try it with this new program and see, does that perform in a similar way? Or maybe you want to test a webinar instead of a challenge launch. Maybe you can do that change for something that you've already launched. So you're not doing that new style of launch on a new program. You're doing the new style of launch on an existing program. Maybe if you want to test a new price, you could keep the sales page copy, keep everything the same, and then pay attention to the conversion rate and the total sales value that you are making. Maybe in 1 month, you might have a lower conversion rate, less people buying, but because you've changed the price, the overall amount of money that you are making is higher. So you're actually getting information that's helpful to know, okay, well, I'm still making more money, so that new price is okay. Changing things just one thing at a time is absolutely a lot slower. It is not the best strategy if you are someone who likes to do a heap of stuff really quickly, unless you are able to gather all that data and assimilate it really quickly. But doing slow changes helps you get more clues and more information rather than a heap of noise. It helps you pinpoint what it is that you did that has made that piece of spaghetti stick on the wall. Because when you know what it is, when you understand what's making the difference, then you can do more of that. You can test changes beyond that thing. You can try tweaks on the thing that worked. And you're not just forever looking for other people's strategies or other people's blueprints to lead the direction. You're able to use information, use the clues, and be able to double down on it and seek out the things that work so that you're able to spend more time on that and less time at the throwing of the spaghetti. You find the pieces that stuck and you put your research into finding out why they stuck, and hopefully you can make them stick even better and better. If you want to be able to make more confident decisions about what to change, the more information that you have, the better. So even if you are using that starting point of someone else's blueprint and you're like, well, it's a good place as any to start, and you can try and tweak and adjust it to your own thinking, try and understand why things work. So that is going to be much more helpful. I got a tiny, tiny test for you today. If you want to participate in this little tiny test, think of one new thing that you want to try and make a simple A/B test for it. And think about whether you can just change that one thing. For example, if you are wanting to change up something in your email style, maybe the delivery that you're doing, maybe you're going to try and include extra links or shorter versus longer, whatever it is. Try a new style of emails and then look at the open rate, the click rate, and the unsubscribe rate and compare it to previous. Is it an improvement or not? But don't try and, change everything about your emails. If you try and change the length of your emails, the style of writing, adding a heap of images when you haven't previously, and, making sure that every email has 17 links in it, you're not going to know which of those things. So try and pick one thing to change. If you're going to try a pricing change, look at, does your conversion rate decrease or increase, and look at the total amount of money that you make, and maybe pay attention to and notice any feedback that you see around pricing complaints to look for patterns. And maybe you might want to change the frequency of posting on the social media platform that you have the most engagement, say for a month. And instead of your normal, like once or twice a week, you're like, all right, I'm going to be posting every day. Compare what happens. Look at the follower growth, the engagement rate, and email sign up rates or sales. And does it change? But don't also change the style of posts that you're doing. Keep everything the same and then just change the frequency and then look at that. So, my tiny test suggestion for you today is write down one thing that you're going to change and then come back to it and look at the data and see, did that change make an impact, and was it a positive impact or a negative impact? Because then you can look at what else to test and try, or maybe take the thing that worked and see what you can do on top of it to make it better. Please do let me know how you go. And if you would like to connect, find me on Voxer and send me a message. I'm at Unicorn Sue, or on Instagram at the Unicorn Advisory. If you've enjoyed this episode and it's got you thinking, yeah, I'm done guessing, I want to start testing, then you are going to love the 2026 experiment. That is where I'm taking this whole mindset into real life for a full year of business experiments on my own digital product business. You can watch what I try, ask questions about changes or pivots I make, see the clues that I'm paying attention to, and get honest, transparent info on what I find is working right now. We are kicking off on January 1st, and until then, you can get in with early access pricing, saving you 50% on the entire year. It is just $99 for an entire year of access and all the debriefs, only until midnight New Year's Eve. So come and join in before the price goes up at theunicornadvisory.com/2026.